Welcome to the podcast. Well, I am happy to be here, and I feel excited because today we talk about books. Books are kind of fun and also calm. I think reading is good for beginners because it helps with words. So I like simple stories with pictures, for example, short novels. That's why books are important for me. I believe many people feel the same, although some people do not read much. Let me think. Books are like friends, you see. They stay with you. So my answer is yes, I love books. What do you think about books and reading?
Welcome to the podcast, too. Actually, I agree with you, and I feel glad to talk about books today. I think books are helpful because they teach us new ideas. In my opinion, reading is easy if the book is simple. For instance, I like short stories because they are not hard. So books are good for beginners. However, some people think books are boring, but I do not think so. I mean, books can be fun and quiet at the same time. Overall, I enjoy reading. What kind of books do you like most?
Well, I like storybooks, and I feel happy when I read them. Basically, stories help me relax after a long day. From my point of view, reading is better than just using the phone, because books help me think. That is important. For example, I read stories about family and friends. As a result, I learn new words. I think books are good for the mind. Although I am busy, I try to read a little every day. So my answer is yes, stories are my favorite. What about you? Do you read every day?
So, my answer is sometimes, and I feel okay about that. To be honest, I do not read every day, but I try. Work is busy, but books help me rest. In fact, even 10 minutes is good. That's why I keep a small book with me. I believe short reading is still reading. However, I like easy books, not hard ones. I mean, simple language is best for beginners. All in all, reading often is good. Do you read in the morning or at night?
I read at night and I feel calm then. In my opinion, night reading is nice because it is quiet. You see, I can focus more. Although I am sometimes tired, I still read a little. That is, I read 2 or 3 pages. Because of this habit, my English gets better. I think books help with sleep too. For instance, a soft story is relaxing. So my answer is night is best for me. What time do you like to read books?
I read in the morning and I feel fresh at that time. Actually, morning reading gives me energy. From my point of view, the brain works better early. Therefore, I read simple pages with coffee. However, I understand you. Night is quiet too. I believe both times are good. That's why reading is flexible. In short, time is not important. Reading is. I mean, any time is okay. Do you read paper books or online books?
I like paper books, and I feel close to them. The smell and feel are kind of nice. In my opinion, paper books are easier for eyes. Although online books are cheap, I still choose paper. For example, I can write notes inside. That's why paper books are special to me. I think beginners also like paper books. So my answer is paper books. What about you? Do you like online books more?
I like online books, and I feel they are easy to use. Basically, my phone is always with me, so I can read anywhere, for instance, on the bus or train. However, I agree, paper books are nice too. I believe both are good. In other words, the book type is a personal choice. As far as I'm concerned, online books help save space. Overall, reading is the key. What kind of stories do you enjoy?
I enjoy happy stories, and I feel warm when I read them. Let me think. Stories about friendship are my favorite, because they are simple and kind. In fact, sad stories make me tired, so I choose positive ones. I think beginners need easy and happy books. That's why I like them. Although some people love drama, I do not. To sum up, happy stories are best for me. What stories make you feel good?
I like adventure stories and I feel excited reading them. You see, action keeps me interested. For example, stories about travel or heroes. However, I agree, happy stories are good too. I believe reading should feel nice. That is important for beginners. In my opinion, adventure helps imagination. As a result, I learn new ideas. All in all, stories should be fun. Do you read alone or with others?
I like reading alone, and I feel peaceful then. In my opinion, alone time is good for focus. I can think clearly. Although reading with others is fun, I prefer quiet. Because of this, I understand the story better. For instance, I read slowly and repeat words. That helps learning. So my answer is reading alone. What about you? Do you enjoy book clubs?
I enjoy book clubs and I feel social there. Actually, talking about books helps me learn. For example, I hear new ideas from others. However, I also like reading alone sometimes. I think both ways are good. In other words, reading can be personal or shared. That's why books are great. Overall, sharing ideas is fun. Do you talk about books with friends?
Yes, I talk with friends and I feel happy sharing. Basically, we talk about simple books. Because we are beginners, we help each other. For instance, we explain words. I think this is useful. Although I like reading alone, sharing is also nice. That's why I do both. In short, books bring people together. Do your friends like reading too?
Some friends like reading, and I feel glad about that. However, others do not read much. I believe it is okay. Everyone is different. In my opinion, reading should not be forced. That is important. For example, I suggest easy books to friends. As a result, some start reading. All in all, books need time. Do you think reading English books is hard?
I think English books are not very hard, and I feel confident. Actually, simple English books are good. For beginners, they are clear. Because of pictures and easy words, I understand more. That's why I like them. Although I do not know all words, I keep reading. I mean, learning takes time. In my opinion, practice helps. So my answer is no, not too hard. How do you learn new words from books?
I learn new words slowly and I feel patient. Basically, I write words down. For example, I keep a small notebook. You see, this helps memory. However, I do not stop reading for every word. I think guessing is okay. That is, understanding the idea is more important. As far as I'm concerned, books teach naturally. Overall, reading helps language. Do you use a dictionary?
Yes, I use a dictionary and I feel it helps me. However, I do not use it all the time, because stopping too much is tiring. For instance, I check words after reading. I think this way is better. Although learning is slow, it works. That's why I like this method. In conclusion, balance is good. Do you read the same book many times?
I read books many times, and I feel it is useful. Actually, reading again makes things clear. For example, I understand more the second time. I believe this is good for beginners. However, some people like new books only. In my opinion, both are fine. That is, comfort is key. All in all, repeat reading helps learning. What is your favorite book now?
My favorite book now is a short storybook, and I feel happy reading it. It is easy and friendly. For example, the story talks about daily life. I think this is good for beginners, because the words are simple. That's why I like it. Although it is short, it is fun. In short, simple books are best. What book do you like now?
I like a travel story now, and I feel interested. Basically, it shows new places, for instance, cities and people. I believe reading helps me dream. However, the language is still simple. That is important. In my opinion, interest makes reading easy. As a result, I read more. Overall, liking the book matters. Do you want to write a book one day?
I want to write a book, and I feel excited about that idea. Actually, I want to write a simple story. For beginners, simple is good, because clear words help readers. I think writing is hard, but fun. Although I am not ready now, I will try later. That's why reading helps writing too. To sum up, books inspire me. Do you want to be a writer?
I want to write too, and I feel a little scared. However, I believe practice helps. In fact, reading many books gives ideas.
For instance, style and words. I think writing short texts is a good start. That is easy. Overall, books help us create. In other words, reading and writing connect. What do books mean to you?
Books mean learning and joy to me, and I feel thankful. You see, books help me grow. Because of reading, I know more words. That's why books are special. Although life is busy, books give quiet time. I think beginners need this. In conclusion, books are friends. Overall, they help us every day. Are books important in your life too?
Books are important to me, and I feel they guide me. Actually, they teach and relax me. From my point of view, books are simple teachers because they are always there. However, we need time to read. I believe small steps are fine. In short, books matter. All in all, reading is a good habit. Are you ready to talk more about books in the next part?
I think reading every day is good, and I feel motivated when I do it. Let me think. Even 5 minutes is helpful, because short reading is easy for beginners. For example, 1 page before sleep is fine. That's why I try daily. Although I miss some days, I continue. In my opinion, habit is more important than time. You see, small steps work. So my answer is yes, daily reading helps. Do you try to read every day too?
I try to read every day, and I feel proud when I do. Actually, some days are hard. However, I believe effort matters. For instance, I read signs or short texts. That is still reading. As a result, I learn slowly. I think beginners should not worry. Overall, daily reading builds confidence. Do you feel tired when you read after work?
Yes, I feel tired sometimes, but I still read. To be honest, reading helps me relax because books are calm. For example, easy stories make me smile. That's why I choose light books. Although my eyes are tired, my mind feels better. I believe reading is rest. In short, books help me after work. What do you do when you feel tired to read?
When I feel tired, I read less, and I feel okay with that. Basically, I listen to audiobooks sometimes. It is easier. However, I still follow the words. I think this also helps beginners. In other words, listening and reading work together. Overall, rest is important. Do you listen to audiobooks too?
I listen to audiobooks, and I feel interested. Actually, hearing words helps my pronunciation. For instance, I repeat simple sentences. Because of this, my speaking improves. I think beginners need this practice. Although I like reading more, audio is helpful. That's why I use both. What kind of voice do you like in audiobooks?
I like calm voices, and I feel relaxed listening. In my opinion, slow speech is best, because fast speech is hard. However, clear voice helps learning. I believe tone matters. For example, friendly voices keep attention. All in all, audiobooks are useful. Do you read children's books sometimes?
Yes, I read children's books, and I feel happy. You see, they are simple and colorful. For beginners, they are perfect. For instance, pictures explain the story. That's why I understand more. Although they are for kids, adults can learn too. I think no shame in that. Do you like simple pictures in books?
I like pictures, and I feel they help a lot. Actually, pictures give context. Because of this, words are clearer. I believe beginners need support. However, I also enjoy books without pictures. In other words, both styles are fine. Overall, learning is the goal. Do you choose books by cover?
I choose books by cover, and I feel curious. Let me think. A nice cover invites me, because first look is important. For example, bright colors feel friendly. That's why I pick them. Although story matters more, cover helps choice. I think beginners do this often. How do you choose your books?
I choose books by topic, and I feel focused. Basically, I read what I like. For instance, travel or daily life. I believe interest keeps reading going. However, cover can help too. In my opinion, both ways work. As a result, reading becomes fun. Do you finish all books you start?
I do not finish all books, and I feel okay. To be honest, some books are boring, because if I don't enjoy, I stop. I think that is normal. Although finishing is good, joy is better. That's why I change books. In short, reading should be fun. Do you stop reading boring books?
I stop boring books too, and I feel free doing that. Actually, forcing reading is bad. I believe beginners need comfort. For example, switching books helps motivation. However, I try to give a book some time. Overall, choice matters. Do you reread favorite books?
Yes, I reread favorite books, and I feel comfort. You know, familiar stories are easy because I know the words. That's why rereading helps learning. Although new books are exciting, old ones feel safe. I think beginners need both. What is your favorite book type?
My favorite type is simple nonfiction, and I feel curious. For instance, books about daily habits. I believe real-life topics are easy. However, stories are fun too. In my opinion, balance is good. All in all, variety helps learning. Do you read alone or with music?
I read alone without music and I feel focused. Actually, music distracts me because words need attention. That's why silence works. Although soft music is nice, I avoid it. I think beginners need quiet. What about you? Do you like background music?
I like soft music, and I feel relaxed. However, it must be quiet. I believe mood matters. For example, calm music helps me sit longer. In other words, everyone is different. Overall, comfort helps reading. Do you take notes while reading?
I take notes and I feel organized. For instance, I write new words because writing helps memory. That's why I keep a notebook. Although it takes time, it works. I think beginners should try notes. Do you write notes too?
I write notes sometimes, and I feel it helps. Actually, I underline words. However, I do not stop too much. I believe flow is important. In my opinion, balance is key. As a result, reading stays fun. Do you read only in your free time?
I read in free time and I feel relaxed. You see, reading is my hobby because it is cheap and easy. That's why I choose books. Although I watch TV too, books are special. I think reading fits any schedule. Do you read on weekends more?
I read more on weekends, and I feel free then. Basically, I have time. For example, mornings are quiet. I believe weekend reading is nice. However, small reading on weekdays is good too. Overall, time doesn't matter. Do you borrow books or buy them?
I borrow books and I feel smart saving money because libraries are helpful. For instance, many free books are there. That's why I go often. Although buying is nice, borrowing is easy. I think beginners should use libraries. Do you go to libraries?
I go to libraries, and I feel calm there. Actually, libraries are quiet. I believe they help focus. However, I also buy books I love. In other words, both are good. All in all, access matters. Do you recommend books to friends?
I recommend books, and I feel helpful. You know, sharing is kind, because friends trust advice. That's why I suggest easy books. Although tastes differ, simple books work. I think beginners need guidance. I think reading habits are important, and I feel motivated to talk about them. Basically, habits make reading easy, because when reading is a habit, it feels natural. That's why I read at the same time each day. Although I am busy, I try. In my opinion, habits help beginners a lot. So my answer is yes, habits matter. How do you build a reading habit?
I build a reading habit slowly, and I feel patient. Actually, I start very small. For example, 5 minutes a day. I believe this works best. However, some days are hard. In other words, missing a day is okay. Overall, habits grow with time. Do you feel bad when you skip reading?
I feel a little bad when I skip reading, but I forgive myself. You know, life is busy, because stress is not helpful. That's why I start again the next day. I think kindness to yourself is important. Although missing days happens, habits stay. How do you feel when you skip?
I feel okay when I skip, and I feel calm. Actually, I remind myself of progress. I believe one day does not break a habit. However, I try again soon. In short, balance matters. Do you set a place for reading?
I set a place for reading, and I feel comfortable there. For example, a small chair near the window, because comfort helps focus. That's why I like that place. Although I can read anywhere, my spot is special. Do you have a reading place?
I have a reading place, and I feel relaxed there. Actually, it is my desk. I believe routine helps habits. However, sometimes I read outside. In other words, flexibility is nice. Overall, place helps mood. Do you drink something while reading?
I drink tea while reading, and I feel warm. You see, tea makes reading cozy, because small joys help habits. That's why I enjoy it. Although it is simple, it feels nice. What do you drink when you read?
I drink coffee, and I feel awake. Actually, coffee helps me focus. However, I drink water too. I believe comfort matters more than drink. In my opinion, habits should be easy. Do you read one book or many at once?
I read one book at a time, and I feel focused. Because many books confuse me, that's why I finish one first. Although other books look interesting, I wait. I think beginners need focus. Do you read many books at once?
I read 2 books at once, and I feel okay. Actually, I choose different topics. For example, one story and one learning book. I believe variety keeps interest. However, too many is bad. Overall, choice matters. Do you carry a book with you?
I carry a small book, and I feel ready to read. You know, waiting time becomes reading time. Because of this, I read more. That's why small books are good. Although phones are easy, books feel better. Do you read while waiting?
I read while waiting, and I feel productive. Actually, short reading fits well. I believe time adds up. However, sometimes I just rest. In other words, balance again. Overall, small moments help. Do you track your reading?
I feel happy to finish this podcast, and I feel thankful to listeners. Overall, we talked about books in a simple way. Because books help beginners, this topic matters. That's why I enjoyed sharing ideas. Although learning takes time, it is fun. In my opinion, reading is a friendly habit. So my answer is yes, books are great. How do you feel after this talk?
I feel happy too, and I feel relaxed now. Actually, this talk was simple and clear. I believe beginners can understand it well. Because we used easy ideas, learning feels safe. In short, books are useful for everyone. All in all, sharing helps us grow. How do you think listeners can start today?
I think listeners can start today, and I feel hopeful. For example, they can read one page, because small steps work. That's why starting is easy. Although fear exists, it fades. I believe action matters. Listeners should remember books are friends, and I feel warm, because books wait for us. That's why reading feels safe. Although life is busy, books help. What is your final thought?
My final thought is start small, and I feel confident. Actually, small steps build big habits. Because of this, reading grows. In other words, begin today. How do you want to say goodbye?
I want to say thank you, and I feel happy. You see, listeners make this possible, because support matters. That's why I smile now. What do you say to them?
I say thank you too, and I feel thankful. Actually, listening means a lot. I believe community helps learning. What reminder should we give again?
We should remind them to subscribe, and I feel clear, because subscribing helps the channel grow. That's why we ask. Although it sounds simple, it helps. What else again?
We remind them to like and share, and I feel honest, because this allows more videos. Due to this, we can help more beginners. What feeling do you have now?
I feel proud and I feel calm because we finished well. That's why this ending feels good. Although it ends, learning continues. What about you?
I feel proud too, and I feel positive. Actually, talking about books feels right. I believe listeners learned something. What is our last message?
Our last message is keep reading, and I feel hopeful because books open doors. That's why beginners should try. Although it is slow, it works. Are you ready to close?
I am ready to close, and I feel satisfied. Actually, this was friendly and simple. I believe it helped beginners. In conclusion, books are powerful. Shall we say goodbye?
Yes. Goodbye, everyone, and I feel thankful. To sum up, please subscribe, like, and share with friends, because this helps the channel grow and lets us make more similar videos. All in all, thank you for listening. See you next time.